We are used to cats and dogs. Some people keep hamsters at home, others keep parrots. But in the world, there are also such animals that amaze with their unusual nature, and at the same time can become the sweetest domestic pets. From a swift reptile capable of living 100 years to a giant rodent with webbed little feet. Today, we will show 15 of the most adorable animals that can legally be kept at home. These adorable little creatures, which are also called honey bears, at first glance resemble tiny monkeys, but that is deceptive. In fact, the Kinkajou is more closely related to raccoons and red pandas than to primates. They are native to the humid tropical forests of Central and South America, where they spend most of their lives playing among the foliage and feasting on sweet nectar. Yes, in some US states it is permitted to keep a Kinkajou at home, but by no means everywhere. In other countries, such a thing may be completely prohibited. So before you become captivated by their huge eyes and amusing little paws, it is worth checking the laws. Although these beings look incredibly cute, keeping a wild animal at home is not a simple task. Paris Hilton once got herself a Kinkajou, and it seems that this is what sparked a wave of interest in honey bears. But do not be fooled. Unlike her decorative little dogs, a Kinkajou is by no means a pocket pet. They are accustomed to life at height, to freedom, and to a varied diet. They need high temperature, humidity, plenty of space for climbing, and a diverse diet: fruits, honey, nectar, and sometimes insects. These animals are very active at night and can stage real bedlam if they are bored. They love to play, but they are also terribly careless and are practically not amenable to training. The owner will have to make peace with messes and little pools of juice in the corners. So if you lack the patience and desire to turn your home into a mini jungle, it is better to admire Kinkajous at the zoo. As they say, what is available to the stars does not always suit mere mortals. And the honey bear is no exception here. Soft, fluffy, with huge ears, the chinchilla seems as if it were created to evoke tenderness. These South American little animals can become excellent pets if you are ready to understand their characteristics. Chinchillas are not dogs and not cats. They will not run after you around the house, but with proper handling, they get used to hands and even recognize their owner. They are comfortable living alone, provided that they are given attention and a cozy environment is created. In nature, chinchillas live in the mountains, so their fur is incredibly dense. It saves them from the cold, but at home, this can become a problem. These little ones do not tolerate heat, and if the temperature in the room rises too high, they risk heat stroke. In addition, they are active at night. It is precisely then that they arrange their marathons around the cage. Therefore, if you value silence, you should think twice. Chinchillas are avid gnawers. If you give them the wrong object, they will gladly turn it into splinters. But they vitally need dust baths. This is not a fun activity, but a way to care for their fur. Without regular dusty bathing, the fur loses its shine and may cause disease. Yes, a chinchilla will demand attention, but in return, it will bring a lot of joy and become a true fluffy friend. Fragile, yet with a strong character. For some, the embodiment of horror; for others, the ideal pet. Yes, tarantulas can become your housemates, and strangely enough, quite unpretentious ones. These massive, shaggy spiders almost do not make noise, do not smell, are cleanly, and at the same time have a calm disposition. But this is an exotic animal, which means it will require special equipment and an unusual diet. Tarantulas live longer than 20 years, so by getting one, you are essentially signing up for a long-term relationship. They need a reliable glass display case or a terrarium, because Houdini spiders can find any loophole and escape. And if you do not want to gift your neighbor a heart attack, make sure that the lid is closed tightly. Of course, you should not cuddle tarantulas. Although some owners allow them to crawl on their hands, the bite of such a pet will be quite painful. In addition, when threatened, they shed microscopic barbed hairs that cause itching and burning, as if you were poked by a tiny cactus. So if you dream of a fluffy, affectionate creature, perhaps this is not your option. But if you enjoy the unusual and the mysterious, a tarantula can quite become your quiet, enigmatic companion who observes the world from his glass fortress. Yes, they are tiny, expressive, and seem like the embodiment of cuteness. But behind those big eyes lies the character of a true hooligan. In the 1960s to 1970s, squirrel monkeys were incredibly popular as domestic pets. There were no restrictions then, and these little ones ended up in thousands of homes. But already since 1975, they were banned from being imported into the US, although in some states, it is still permitted to keep them. Why are people discouraged from this now? It is simple. It is hard to live with a monkey. It demands attention 24 hours a day. It is impossible to fully toilet train it, and most often it has to wear diapers. Yes, you did not mishear. And even that does not save you. If the monkey does not like something, it expresses its emotions the way it knows how. It throws food, or something worse. These beings are incredibly energetic, intelligent, but also capricious. As soon as you get distracted, the house turns into a battlefield. Curtains torn down, pots overturned, toys scattered. Squirrel monkeys are like little children, only without an off button. They quickly get attached to the owner, become jealous, and stage scenes if they feel deprived of attention. So before letting such a little neighbor into your home, think, are you ready for this little one to demand you completely, and in return, to toss surprises, not only emotional, but also physical? At last, who can resist this classic symbol of home coziness? Rabbits are among the most adorable and friendly pets that can become part of your family. There are many breeds, from tiny to large, from smooth-coated to fluffy, and almost all of them are suitable for keeping at home. Rabbits are active, playful, and love attention very much. But do not forget, behind this cuteness, there is also responsibility. Rabbits need a clean space, fresh vegetables, toys, and constant care. They quickly get used to people, recognize their owners, love to play, and can even be toilet trained if you show patience. However, rabbits are not loners. They gravitate toward communication, especially if they live in pairs or groups. But there is a nuance. They reproduce truly like rabbits. So if you do not want many fluffy surprises, you should think about precautions in advance. Rabbits fill the home with joy and movement. They hop, build tunnels, adore soft bedding and attention. And if you invest a little love in them, you will get a faithful and gentle friend who will give a lot of warmth and cheerful moments. Do not rush to picture those that besiege city squares and sit on the heads of passers-by. No, we are talking about domestic breeds of pigeons, those that people have kept as beloved pets for hundreds of years. Most often these are descendants of rock pigeons, and among them many breeds have been bred, each with its own talents. The most famous are homing pigeons, those very birds that can fly thousands of kilometers and return home without any navigation. Their inner bird compass amazes even scientists. Once upon a time, pigeons were not just a decoration of the yard, but true heroes. During wars, they delivered the most important messages across front lines, saved lives, and some even received medals for bravery. If you decide to get pigeons, be prepared. They need a safe and clean aviary, protection from rodents and predators, fresh water, and proper feed. But watching them is a real pleasure. Domestic pigeons are not just unusual pets. They are real feathered friends, intelligent, graceful, and, forgive the pun, quite charming. On the outside, like a miniature flying squirrel, but in fact this little one is a marsupial animal, a relative of the kangaroo and wallaby. Yes, nature never ceases to amaze. The sugar possum got its name thanks to its love of sweets. In the wild, it eats nectar, tree sap, and flower pollen. Its special feature is the thin membrane between its little legs and body, which allows it to glide through the air like a parachutist. At first glance, it seems, what could be a more ideal pet? Small, amusing, fluffy. But in reality, sugar possums are incredibly social creatures that cannot stand loneliness. In the wild, they live in large families, and if you keep one alone, it will begin to pine and may even die from stress. Another difficulty is their diet. It consists of insects, tree saps, pollen, and fruits. Reproducing this menu at home is extremely difficult. If you feed them only fruit, the animal quickly becomes ill. In addition, possums need a lot of space to glide, jump, and train their muscles. In a small cage, they become sluggish and unhappy. So if you nevertheless decide on these tiny ones, you will have to create a true mini forest in your home. But it is worth looking into their huge dark eyes, and all efforts will seem like nothing. These little ones can conquer the heart of anyone who sees their smile even once. This may not be the first animal that comes to mind when you think of pets, but agree, there is its own charm in these prickly little balls. A little hedgehog is, without a doubt, the most unusual, and at the same time surprisingly cute pet one can dare to have. But let us be honest, keeping a hedgehog at home is not for everyone. These beings are still wild animals, and although some breeders truly breed domestic hedgehogs, they nevertheless remain closer to nature than to the couch. In the United Kingdom, for example, it is permitted to keep hedgehogs at home, but only under strict rules. They need space where they can run and dig the ground, because this is their instinct. Most domestic conditions are not able to give them the necessary level of freedom. Moreover, organizations like the RSPCA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, do not recommend keeping hedgehogs in captivity, because in nature, they cover huge distances at night while foraging for insects. At home, in a cage or an aquarium, they are deprived of this possibility. And yet, if you are crazy about these little travelers, there is a compromise. Create a garden shelter for them. Put out a bowl of food, leave a hideout, and then hedgehogs will come to visit on their own. That way, you can observe them in a natural environment without violating their nature. So if you want the prickly little ones to settle nearby, it is better not to keep them in a cage, but to invite them into the garden. Let them live free, and you enjoy their presence. That is much more humane. Yes, a turtle can be kept at home, but the laws regulating this differ greatly depending on the country, and sometimes even on the state. Therefore, before getting yourself such an ancient neighbor, you should find out what rules apply exactly where you are. A turtle is an amazing creature. These cold-blooded reptiles need the ability to bask in the sun or under a special UVB lamp, because this is how they regulate body temperature. Ideally, the pet will need a small garden or a spacious enclosure with areas of light and shade where it can rest and hide from the heat. Most turtles are vegetarians, but some species do not mind feasting on insects. Their diet should include plenty of greens, grasses, and vegetables. And do not think that a turtle is a sluggish creature. In fact, it can move much faster than you expect. Certain species reach speeds of up to 5 kilometers per hour. In addition, turtles love to dig, so the fencing must be reliable. Otherwise, your pet may unexpectedly dig a tunnel and stage a great escape. Living with a turtle is a true pleasure. Each one has its own character. Some grumble when disturbed, others curiously examine everything around. And although you are unlikely to cuddle it like a cat, the presence of this ancient, wise reptile gives the home a special atmosphere. Most importantly, remember, turtles live up to 100 years. So if you decide to get one, you will have to add the item Turtle Guardian to your will. This bird is not just a pet, it is almost a full-time job. We are talking about the magnificent Hyacinth macaw, a bright blue giant with a mighty beak capable of biting through a coconut. Only experienced owners can keep such a beauty. It needs enormous space, and an ordinary cage will clearly not be enough. Better an entire room. These parrots are true masters of escape. They open locks, unscrew bolts, and arrange daring breakouts. But macaws are incredibly intelligent and love communication. They love to learn, play, talk, and they quickly become attached to their owner. Ignore them for too long, and they will start to misbehave. The Hyacinth macaw is the largest parrot on the planet, almost the size of an eagle. It is not just a pet, it is a companion, an artist, and a personality with character. With such a neighbor, you definitely will not be bored. It will become a full-fledged member of the family and will most likely consider you part of its flock. These good-natured giants are the largest rodents on the planet, and they look as if they have stepped out of a cartoon. Capybaras are calm, even-tempered beings with a philosophical outlook on life. In many U.S. states, they can be kept at home, but not everywhere. Somewhere, a special permit is required, and in some places, this is completely prohibited. Before buying such a pet, be sure to clarify the laws, because a fine for an illegal rodent can be a very unpleasant surprise. Capybaras are social animals. In the wild, they live in large groups, so a single capybara at home will quickly become bored. It is better to take a pair, or even better, a whole company. They need a lot of space and definitely a pool or a large body of water, because these animals are excellent swimmers. Their webbed little feet and dense fur are made for life by the water. Their diet is simple, mostly grass, hay, and wood to grind down their teeth, which in capybaras grow throughout their lives. With proper care, they become affectionate, tame, and happily spend time next to humans. And if you want a mini version, you can pay attention to their miniature relatives, guinea pigs. But still, agree, seeing a 2-meter rodent gently warming itself in a pool is a sight you will never forget. And here is a pet that seems ideally created for life beside humans, and at the same time looks like a predator from the jungle. The Bengal cat is not just a beautiful breed, it is a true work of nature created by humans. It appeared thanks to the crossing of an ordinary domestic cat with a wild Asian leopard cat, hence its striking appearance, a golden coat with contrasting spots, as if on a miniature leopard. But do not be fooled, despite the predatory look, Bengals are affectionate, good-natured, and playful creatures that quickly become members of the family. They love communication, are easily trainable, and can even master some tricks, for example, turning lights on and off or opening doors. Bengals are incredibly active. If you do not give them space, they will find where to expend their energy, and your home may turn into an obstacle course. These cats climb, jump, and explore everything around perfectly. Interestingly, some representatives of the breed can even be trained to use the toilet. Yes, they are intelligent, independent, and at the same time sociable. In a word, the ideal choice for those who want wildness in the eyes and affection in the heart. If you dream of a pet with the appearance of a wild beast, but the character of a devoted friend, a Bengal cat will become a true adornment of your home. At first glance, a little goat seems the embodiment of cuteness, but if you suddenly decide to get yourself such a horned friend, be ready. This cutie can turn into a real headache. The main thing you need to know, goats cannot stand loneliness. Whatever the breed, it lives only in a herd, which means if you do not want to see a sad goat wandering alone, you will have to get at least 2. Goats are natural gourmets, but alas, indiscriminate ones. They will gladly chew your flowers, bushes, laundry on the line, and, if you are lucky, even the bumper of your car. Therefore, you must choose a place for them wisely. A spacious plot, more grass or hay, and no tempting things under hoof. Dwarf or pygmy breeds are a more convenient option for the home. They are smaller, energetic, and can become amusing companions. But do not be deceived. Even a small goat requires training and constant care. Yes, in many countries it is permitted to keep goats at home, but before buying, be sure to check local laws. In some cities it is prohibited to keep farm animals. If you have enough space, time, and budget, a goat can become an excellent pet. Not for everyone, of course, but everyone has their own taste. As the saying goes, what suits a goat is not to everyone's liking. Who would have thought that pigs can be excellent pets? For example, George Clooney lived for many years with his favorite, a Vietnamese pot-bellied boar named Max. He took him to film sets, drove with him in the car, and even said that it was Max who helped him stay grounded when all around was fame and Hollywood. But, as they say, more than one of his beloveds left the actor because of Max. And you know, perhaps Clooney was right, because these animals truly can conquer the heart. The only problem is size. Many people buy a tiny piglet, confident that it is a mini breed, and then suddenly discover that this baby has grown into a real Pumbaa from The Lion King, occupying half the apartment and snoring at your side. Nevertheless, pigs are incredibly intelligent creatures. They can be litter-trained, walked on a leash like dogs, and even taught commands. Only their diet is special. They need special feed, not leftovers from the table. A little piglet eats just a couple of pounds of food a day, but if you have acquired a surprise that is larger, get ready, up to 7 pounds of food daily. And of course, after that comes a proudly deserved pile of... And here is who can truly surprise: domestic ducks. Yes, not dogs, not cats, but the most real ducks. They are charming, funny, and with proper care, can become a true adornment of the yard. But before you run for a duckling, you should know a few important things. First, ducks are not indoor animals. They need to spend a lot of time outside, where there is water, sun, and space for walks. At night, they can be brought into a shed or shelter to protect them from predators, but a duck has no place living in an apartment. Second, ducks are social beings. You cannot keep one duck alone. It definitely needs friends, otherwise it will suffer. They are surprisingly intelligent and can remember their owner, follow them, and even perform simple commands. Some ducks become so tame that they allow themselves to be picked up and even hugged. But there is one nuance. They produce an incredible amount of droppings. And if you suddenly decide to keep them at home, you will have to put diapers on them and change them every 4 hours. Can you picture it? Yes, it looks funny, but still, maybe it is better to leave ducks to their natural life? In the yard, however, that is another matter. Ducks will adorn your garden, delight you with their cheerful quacking, and become excellent helpers because they eat insects and snails. Yes, all these pets are legal and, without a doubt, adorable. But each of them requires a special approach, patience, and responsibility. Exotic animals can embellish life, but only if you are ready to give them everything they need. And now a question for you. Would you dare to get one of these unusual pets? Or perhaps one of them already lives with you? Write in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe, because ahead of us, there are even more incredible stories about the world of animals and the most amazing treasures of nature.